Welcome back to INF People. Today we'll talk about Cloud Strife as a classical antihero. Okay, so I'm feeling inspired, so I'm just going to make this video today also. So uh, the game Final Fantasy VII it deals a lot with the ideas of the classical hero and the classical anti-hero. And interestingly enough, these are both used through through the main character of Cloud Strife. So in the beginning of the game, so first let's just say I see Cloud as an INFP. I think that he's generally considered to be an INFP. He could be an ISFP also, but he definitely uses introverted feeling as his dominant function. So either whether he's an INFP or ISFP, he's an introverted feeler. So we'll just start, or we'll just get that part out of the way. So most likely an INFP or ISFP. Um, so, um, but at the beginning of the game, he doesn't act like an INFP or an ISFP. And in this part, he is a classical hero. So what that is, so a classical hero um, is like the dashing, confident, optimistic sort of hero that was used in a lot of stories like in mythology in the past. Nowadays our idea of a hero is kind of more is turning into a sort of classical anti-hero. But now, so actually, now that Marvel is so popular with the Marvel movies, a lot of those characters are classical heroes. Like Captain America, for example, is a classical hero. Like this guy is like extremely confident. Once he becomes Captain America, I'll say. So yeah, even with that, I guess he is sort of a classical anti-hero at the beginning. But anyway, sorry, I'm really excited about this whole like Final Fantasy VII remake coming out, and like just how well they're doing with this for the fans. Like they're just working so hard to make everybody happy. I'm just really impressed with it, and I'm really excited about it because the Final Fantasy VII was my favorite game of all time. And I already made a video about how it changed my life. So back to the classical anti-hero. So the classical anti-hero is like the opposite of the classical hero. So they are usually very like riddled with doubt, and they're not confident. They like question the decisions they make. They're not very decisive. They're more like broody or moody. They're not as outgoing. But I guess the classical hero could be stoic. Um, but they're stoic in a confident way, just nothing really phases them because they're so sure of themselves. But with the classical anti-hero, if they're broody or moody, it's because they are experiencing some kind of self-doubt and like trying to like go into themselves and try to reconcile these doubts that they're having. And so at the beginning of the story, when Cloud, or the beginning of the game, when Cloud is still taking on the persona of Zack, he's very much a classical hero. He's in like even in this sense of being stoic, but he's very confident to the point of being like cocky and even arrogant. So yeah, he's very confident in himself, and he's like just like this like dashing sort of guy, like this cool guy who like gets the girls and stuff like. and But then once he like his mind starts unraveling when he's having his identity crisis, and he becomes his real self. Then he's more of the or the classical anti-hero. So nowadays, when we say the word anti-hero, we're thinking of characters like Wolverine or like Vegeta. But even Vegeta is sort of a classical anti-hero because he has a lot of self-doubt too. But just like the hardcore sort of character, that's what we think of as the anti-hero nowadays. But the classical anti-hero is different because like they're not like these like tough guys like the quote unquote anti-hero that we talk about today is. So yeah, like all those like badass sort of characters. Those are what people say are the anti-heroes today. Um, but yeah, like the classical anti-hero is different. It's like a character who just is not sure of themselves, and like so like a lot of the conflict in stories that have an anti-hero or a classical anti-hero as the protagonist, the real obstacles, more even more than the enemy, the real obstacles are within the character themselves. So it's like in Final Fantasy VII is a perfect example of that, and it was the first time I saw something like that where the hero was like this person who I could really relate to. Most of the time, heroes and stories are just like so perfect, and that's another thing. The classical hero has like is like pretty is like almost flawless. They don't have any problems. There's nothing wrong with them. They don't have to overcome anything internally. They're just like these guys who are just basically perfect, and then they have to fight somebody who's whatever the enemy happens to be. For whatever reason, they have to fight this enemy. But the classical anti-hero, their fight is more within themselves. Even though there might be an enemy like Sephiroth, but like Sephiroth, even in the game Final Fantasy VII, Sephiroth is more as an enemy. It's almost more like Cloud is fighting himself, like his own doubts and his own past, and trying to reconcile who he is as a person. So while there is a villain, the real enemy or the real conflict is within Cloud himself, like trying to reconcile this persona that he has that he took on from Zack with his actual true self. Like his like when he was a kid and like he was like tired of being ignored and stuff, and like not really having that many friends, and like so that's why he wanted to be a soldier so he could gain attention and things like that. So like that's the real battle in the story, and Final Fantasy VII was the first time I saw anything like that in any kind of story, and especially in a video game, where they really went into like the psychology of the character, and that's probably the main reason that I love it so much, because of how much it has to do with identity, and like that's really the whole story is about this character's identity and coming to grips with who he is as a person and becoming his authentic self, and that's why it's such an amazing story, and that's why it's such an amazing game. And that's why I'm so excited that this remake, it looks so good. Like they're getting the characters done. The characters are so well done, from the models to like their personalities and the voice acting. Even though this latest trailer, the voice acting sounded kind of weird, but I think it was just because of the way it was edited. But Cloud's voice sounds amazing. It sounds just like what I imagined Cloud being like when I was reading the text bubbles back in the day, playing Final Fantasy VII back then. So Cloud goes on this journey, to reconcile his original idea of himself, which was this hero, this normal classical hero sort of archetype, and to exploring himself and becoming his actual self, which is someone who, even though he has doubts, he eventually overcomes them, and then he faces Sephiroth, and that's like sort of an analogy or a metaphor of him facing his own self doubt. So like that's why he had to defeat Sephiroth. That's why the last battle is basically just a battle that happens inside Cloud's head. Like it's a psychological battle. It's not really a like a physical thing that happens. And that's another reason why I think that Cloud is more of an INFP than ISFP, because he's so in his head like all the time. But it's debatable. But like, this video isn't really about proving that he's an INFP. You could think either way. It's fine. But yeah, so that was the first story that I had seen that really had like that classical anti-hero as the main protagonist, and so it's more common now. I think it's more interesting to people when the hero has some kind of flaws, because it's easier to identify with him, and then when they eventually triumph, it's more important, because with the flawless hero, it's like, well, of course he was gonna end up winning, because he's perfect, like Superman. Like of course he's gonna win, because there's nothing wrong with him. Like he's sure of himself. He's super powerful. He can do anything. Like of course he's gonna win. But nowadays, stories are more about characters overcoming something inside themselves, something deeper than just fighting some strong opponent or something like that. So yeah, I like that we're heading in, or that things are heading in that direction rather than the classical hero. So yeah, this video was just I just wanted to talk a little bit about the character of Cloud Strife and why I like him so much. And yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Peace and love.